Good evening. I'm Kelda Yoon. Police are ramping up their search for a Markham woman. It's now been 4 days since Anita Moy, a realtor and mother of two, went missing. Investigators are calling the circumstances surrounding her disappearance suspicious as they appeal to the public tonight for help in finding her. Nama Weingarten has the latest.
Police say 56-year-old Anita Young-Ying Moy was last seen leaving her home Friday morning around 9:30 a.m. here in the area of Baycliff Road and Warden Avenue. They say that she spoke with her family over the phone around 11 a.m. that morning, and she hasn't been seen or heard from since. Police found her car, a 2024 white Mercedes-Benz SUV, on Friday afternoon at a plaza parking lot around Finch Avenue East and Warden Avenue. Police say there's no evidence to suggest she was the victim of a carjacking, but they say that her not getting in touch with her family is extremely out of character and enough to ring alarm bells, especially after 4 days have now passed.
We haven't received any suspicious evidence, if you like, or anything that would show or lead investigators in the direction of something bad that may have happened to her. However, she does have regular contact with her family, and the fact that she hasn't checked in with them is enough for them to be concerned and for the police to be concerned at this point.
Moy works as a realtor with her office based in Richmond Hill. Since her job requires her to go from one listing to another, police say it's hard to determine where she was heading off to that morning. We went by her office and spoke to the surrounding businesses, who said she was the property manager for the entire plaza. They described her as nice and easy to work with.
When I open my store, the agent is her. So she is my landlord agent. So at that time, 2 years ago, we have a small conversation about the business. She's very nice.
Moy's broker, who wasn't comfortable speaking on camera, said that her twin sons are waiting for their mom to return home safely. She's described as Chinese, about 5 feet 6 inches tall and 130 pounds with medium build. She has brown eyes and straight, shoulder-length black hair. She was last seen wearing a blue, gold, and white knee-length dress and black shoes. Investigators say her disappearance is not connected to the case of another woman from Markham whose remains were found late last month, days after she went missing. Police are asking anyone with information to come forward. Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Markham.
And we have an update to a story we brought you last week where Hamilton police found 2 people dead inside an apartment. Police say the incident is now being investigated as a murder-suicide. Officers were called to the apartment near Ottawa Street North and King Street on Thursday afternoon. Police say a 77-year-old woman died of stab wounds and a 51-year-old man died of a self-inflicted injury. They say there are no outstanding suspects. A 3rd person has died in a listeria outbreak linked to a plant-based beverage sold in Canada. The Public Health Agency says there are now 20 confirmed cases of listeriosis in Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and Alberta. 15 people have been hospitalized. Refrigerated Silk brand almond, coconut, oat, and almond coconut milk, as well as Great Value brand almond milk, are affected. Those with best before dates up to and including October 4th have been recalled. A new study is painting a dire picture of the extreme stress affecting many of Ontario's healthcare workers. Authors of the study interviewed more than 24 people, including nurses and personal support workers. They say their findings show if immediate action isn't taken, the impact on our healthcare system could be devastating. Tyler Cheese has more.
We hardly have time to take breaks or go to the washroom. I don't think that patients are getting the care they need.
In a video played by the Ontario Council of Hospital Unions at this morning's news conference, healthcare workers speaking anonymously share what it's been like for them at work.
My job is killing me.
It's embarrassing to say I don't have the compassion that I used to have. I'm not at all the nurse I wanted to be.
The video accompanied a new study commissioned by the OCHU looking into the impacts of underfunding, understaffing, deregulation, and privatization on hospital workers. It's the 4th study the group has done examining the mental health and well-being of Ontario's healthcare workforce in the past 7 years.
Our interviews with hospital staff from across Ontario revealed a disturbing picture of their working conditions, their level of distress, and their frustrations over the care that they are trying to deliver.
The study's authors say many of the workers they interviewed suffer anxiety and depression, and several reported regularly crying before or after their shifts. Many also stress that this all leads to worse care for patients and makes them want to quit.
If they feel day in and day out that not only they cannot provide the type of care that they came to and they want to provide, but also they are stressed out, they're going to leave.
Ontario's health minister says the province is doing everything it can to support healthcare workers.
We have ensured by working with our hospital partners, making sure that they have access to the services that they need.
A statement from the minister's office also points to $743 million in the provincial budget dedicated to growing the workforce. And while those in the field appreciate that, they also say it's not enough.
We are asking the government to ensure that all of the health professions receive the attention and the investment, strong, large investments in funding.
She's also stressing the importance of all this happening within a public not-for-profit system and encouraging the province to move away from private healthcare models. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Health Minister Sylvia Jones was also asked about the spike in measles cases this year after the province hit a 10-year high in annual cases only 7 months into 2024.
Would just encourage people to have those conversations with their primary care practitioners to make sure that their vaccines are up to date, including ones that directly impact children and our school system.
Public Health Ontario confirmed 24 measles cases in the province between January and the end of July. That's already more cases than in any full calendar year in the last decade. The health authority says 14 of those cases involved children, 12 of whom were not vaccinated, while 2 had unknown vaccination status. Ontario also reported its first measles death in decades earlier this year. Health experts say vaccination rates dipped dramatically during the pandemic. Jones says the province has been working with the Chief Medical Officer of Health to direct local public health units to focus efforts on ensuring children are caught up on vaccines. Ontario's NDP is demanding the province do more to add affordable childcare spots for parents and ensure daycare operators can survive. The same call recently came from the federal government. Queen's Park reporter Lorena Redicop has more.
Elsa? And Elsa's still there?
NDP leader Marit Stiles visited a non-profit daycare in Scarborough. She says finding a childcare spot has become even more difficult for parents over the past few years.
It's a mess. And since promising affordable childcare, Doug Ford and his conservative politicians have done nothing but create chaos and uncertainty.
Childcare operators say a provincial funding formula needs to actually cover their costs.
Every childcare center I know of has a deficit. And with the current provincial funding formula, there is no way to increase revenue and make ends meet.
The NDP leader urges the province to come out with its promised funding formula. The federal government made that same push late last week.
We've heard it before. We've heard it time and time again, that they've said it is coming, and we would like to see it.
The Ontario government signed a funding deal with the federal government 2 years ago on an affordable childcare program, cutting fees for families with a goal of $10 a day daycare by 2026. But it calls for at least 70% of the spots to be not-for-profit. Since then, the education minister wrote to the federal government saying that doesn't work, that non-profit daycares cannot fill the capacity alone, with private operators ready to step in, saying it will unlock thousands of spaces. That's not how the NDP sees it.
They're trying to leave it so that parents only have one option, which is the private sector.
Today, one parent pleaded with the Ford government to ensure affordable spaces are available.
Here I am, being forced to seriously consider whether I can remain in the workforce because affordable childcare options are vanishing before my eyes. That is obscene.
The education minister says the province's new funding formula will come in the very near future, promising it will bring more stability and reduce waiting lists and fees. Lorena Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Mayor Olivia Chow was in Kensington Market today announcing 2 new affordable housing projects.
We are having a housing crisis. People are dying on our streets, and it's just sheer desperation. Having housing means we can save lives. We can create hope. And imagine a year from now, on this parking lot, a brand new 4-story building.
35 Bellevue Avenue in the heart of Kensington will include 78 affordable housing units to be built on the site of a former parking lot. The building will be constructed using mass timber to promote sustainability and energy efficiency. Now, another development at 11 Brock Avenue in Parkdale will include 42 homes for a total of 120 new affordable units between the two projects. The homes will be set aside for those experiencing homelessness or at risk of becoming homeless. They are set to be completed next year. Welcome back. The Ford government wants to allow people in the province to gamble online with players outside Canada. But first, it needs to find out if that would be legal, and it's facing opposition from other parts of the country. Our senior reporter at Queen's Park, Mike Crawley, has the story.
Online poker is legal in Ontario so long as gamblers only play with other Ontarians. Online gambling companies say this makes the pots too small, and they want Ontario players to be allowed to bet with gamblers outside Canada.
That's the important part, is trying to give more options to consumers and better product offering.
Paul Burns leads the Canadian Gaming Association. It's the umbrella group for companies in the gambling industry.
You could see, I think, a significant increase in the poker business in the province because I've heard from a lot of poker players who say, it's hard to find proper games. The games I used to play, there's not enough people oftentimes when I want to play.
The companies say many Ontario poker players who want higher stakes games,
I see this flop and I think yes,
are skipping the provincially regulated sites in favor of international ones.
All the stats you need to make the right call.
Daily fantasy sports betting sites like DraftKings also want to see Ontario gamblers joining their global pools. The catch is, would this be legal? Premier Doug Ford's government wants to know. It's asking the province's top court for a ruling.
The issue is simply, does the criminal code allow Ontario to make that policy choice, or does it prohibit it?
The agencies that manage gambling in 7 other provinces are fighting the Ford government's plan. They claim that Ontario-registered sites routinely and brazenly allow people in the rest of Canada to gamble, and argue the proposed change would spur more of the same.
At any point, a player can go all in and bet everything in front of them.
Ontario is the only province that allows the private sector to offer online gambling. It's proving lucrative for both the companies and the government. Players wagered $63 billion last year with Ontario's licensed sites. After payouts, the companies involved earned $2.4 billion in revenue, and the province's take from the industry totaled nearly $800 million. If the court rules in favor of Ontario's plan, industry sources say those figures are bound to rise. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
The expansion of Goodyear's Ontario tire plant is getting a financial boost from the federal and provincial governments.
It's not just about, making a few more tires here, although 2 million more tires is a very good thing. It's about the jobs that Goodyear is going to be relying on and that folks in these communities can rely on.
Goodyear says it will create more than 200 new jobs over the next 3 years through the expansion of its Napanee facility. Ottawa and Ontario are contributing tens of millions of dollars aimed at modernizing manufacturing and increasing production of tires for electric vehicles. Another Summer Olympics has come and gone, and it was a historic one for Canada with a record medal haul for a non-boycotted Summer Games. 27 medals in all, 9 of them gold. With the closing ceremony yesterday, our athletes are making their way home with some of their new hardware. Many of them arriving this afternoon at Toronto Pearson Airport, and that is where we find our Greg Ross. And Greg, an incredible games. What was the energy like for the homecoming?
Well, Calda, I think we can call this a hero's welcome. We had a bunch of family and fans that gathered here, and some of them were holding signs and cheering as the athletes came through those doors there behind me into the arrivals area here in the airport. And a number of those athletes, as you mentioned, carrying the hardware that you were just talking about. You mentioned 27 total medals in these games, 9 gold, the most ever total medals for Canada at a Summer Games outside of the 1984 Olympics, which were boycotted. 8 of Canada's medals came in the swimming pool. Our swimmers were led by Summer McIntosh. She won 4 total medals, including 3 gold, and she was on that plane. She was also the flag bearer for Canada at the closing ceremonies as well. She was on that plane today with some of her fellow swimmers, and she talked about just how great it is to come home to a warm welcome.
Can't say thank you enough to all of them and all their support. It means the absolute world, and we wouldn't be here without them today. I mean, even when we were over in Paris, we could feel their support all the way over there, and it was pretty incredible.
I mean, it's awesome to see all the people that are waiting and cheering, and it's kind of surreal to be back in this airport where I've been so many times, but with the warm welcome.
You just heard from Josh Leando there, who won a silver in the men's 100-meter fly. Kylie Mass was also on that plane. She won a bronze in the women's 200-meter backstroke. Now, out of the pool, but staying in the water, we had our women's 8 rowing team that won a silver medal at these games. Jessica Civic, one of the members of that women's 8 team, was also on the flight. And I can tell you that it was very clear, talking to her today, that for the last couple of days, she's been celebrating that silver medal very, very hard. Listen to this.
Well, it was just such a grind and lead up that we just really took the time to celebrate and enjoy our last week together.
Can you interpret that for us?
Thank you.
Honestly, it's just been 4 hard years of hard work, and I think just being able to release that with your teammates in Paris after celebrating that silver medal was pretty special. So hence no voice, which I had no voice a couple days ago either. We're just rotating through. It's been great.
Hey, they're having fun out there, and that's what's important. But yeah, you could clearly hear that Jessica had no voice left. There were also quite a few athletes on that plane who did not win medals at these games, but proudly represented the country. They also got a hero's welcome as they came here into the airport. Among that group, the youngest athlete to represent Canada at these games, 14-year-old Faye DeFazio-Ebert. She competed in the skateboarding competition. She had her skateboard with her in her hand. She says she carries it with her everywhere she goes. She also had a ukulele in her backpack, which was sticking out, which I thought was kind of neat. She's a very multi-talented teenager. She actually was able to put on a little show for us. She got the skateboard out, skated around the airport for the media that were gathered here, and just an incredible level of maturity from this 14-year-old. But I don't get the impression she was ready to leave Paris.
It's so exciting. I'm really excited to just kind of go home, chill a bit. But I did not really want, I don't know, leaving France. I was like, I kind of want to stay here and just chill, but I had to go home, and it was just so exciting. All the people when I was competing, and yeah, I'm so hyped.
Just so hyped and standing in front of those cameras, handling it like a pro. And of course, it was just so fun to watch people stopping to see this Olympic athlete skating around the airport, having some fun. And really, I mean, people who weren't expecting this, people getting off flights, stopping and seeing these Olympic athletes with their medals, some of them wearing their medals. So a lot of excitement here in the airport today, Kelda. And obviously, this is what it's all about when you're an Olympic athlete. You get to come home and you get to be celebrated by the entire country.
Yeah, all of them incredible athletes. All of them deserve that hero's welcome. And we are already looking forward to what? LA 2028, right? Thanks so much, Greg. That's our Greg Russ reporting from Pearson Airport. All right, let's go to Chris Potter with a look at how the week is shaping up. And Chris, temperatures rising a little bit the next few days?
Yeah, and they're going to stabilize. So we're basically looking at near normal temperatures, maybe a touch above as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. Our weather is very stable. In the tropics, it's a little bit different. 24 hours ago, give or take, the National Hurricane Center out of Miami, Florida, sent out a little discussion saying we have a potential Tropical Storm 5. Once it was named, about 2 hours ago, it became Ernesto. They use a naming scheme. Every 6 years, they use basically the same storm names unless one gets retired. And this one is known as Tropical Storm Ernesto. Barely a tropical storm right now with winds at 65 kilometers an hour. That makes it a tropical storm. The Leeward Islands tonight and tomorrow, they're going to get into tropical storm conditions. Tropical storm warnings are in place, rather. And then it kind of moves off towards the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. And that's where, once again, tropical storm warnings are in place. But then it takes a turn. The steering winds force it northward and then more northeastward. And it takes it very close to Bermuda. By that point, it will have intensified to a Category 2 hurricane with max winds estimated. This is a forecast of 175 kilometers an hour. So obviously, it's not necessarily an important story back home, but it is if you have friends, family there, or maybe friends, family, loved ones traveling in those areas. So I don't think that this is going to have a huge impact on Canada, with the exception of Atlantic Canada. It's something to worth watching, at least over the time frame Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll bring it back home. I know not everyone loves tropical storms. I do. Daytime highs today trended a little bit below normal, not by much. We peaked at 24 in Toronto, 26 through Windsor, 22 in towards Ottawa. In terms of active weather, it wasn't widespread. For the GTA, the Golden Horseshoe, we kind of escaped with these hit or miss showers. And most areas were on the miss side of things, and that will be the case tomorrow, but just not across the entire GTA. It's going to be very isolated on the west end of the GTA. So here's a look at what to expect. Not much. Lots of sunshine for tomorrow. Once we get into Wednesday, similar story. We will see some showers redevelop towards cottage country. The Kawarth is into eastern Ontario. But for the rest of the region, it's dry, and dry weather set to prevail into the day on Thursday as well. It's Friday and Saturday and maybe Sunday that we get into some unsettled wet weather. In terms of overnight lows, fairly typical, basically in the mid-teens for most communities. And daytime highs tomorrow, fairly typical for this time of year as well, basically in the mid to upper 20s. So in terms of Tuesday's forecast, like I said, gorgeous day. Once again, maybe a drop or two of rain on the west end of the city. As we get into Wednesday and Thursday, I have daytime highs around 28, not overly humid though. It's going to feel maybe at most like 32. As we get into Friday, sometime during the late afternoon and into the evening, that's when it looks like rain will start to move in from the west. And at this point, it looks like it could continue on and off through the day on Saturday with a daytime high of 26. That's your forecast, Kelda.
Thanks so much, Chris.